Hi, I'm Peter. I describe myself as a serial tester. So I've been in the QA game since the mid-'80s, even before it was even thought of a career path for people. So, and over the course of the last 35 years, I've been involved in many digital transformation programs of various worth, from $5 million to $100 million to $560 million. And across that I've seen a pattern in some of the mistakes that are being made. So I want to just kind of talk to you about what I think are the areas for you to succeed in helping you minimize your testing cost and effort, but implementing exactly what you set out on the tin. So I guess the best place to start is requirements, and understanding the requirements, and taking it up to the next level from an assurance perspective is identifying the purpose. What is the purpose that the business are trying to achieve by implementing D365? What is it they want to achieve? Because if you understand that purpose, you can bring that lens to the requirements. And it's interesting for me in the world of QA how shift left is really picked up over the course of the last 3 or 5 years as agile has become more predominant. But it still comes back to the basics, which is understanding the purpose, understanding the requirements, understanding that those requirements meet the purpose. And I think more often than not, there's not a lot of time or effort spent with that because the QA team doesn't join till later in the project. More often than not, the requirements are there when the QA team turn up, and they're then trying to map a purpose to a set of requirements. And I think if you invest time and money early, you save time and money later. And so getting experts in, and the test team itself has to be not pure testers. It needs to be a good makeup of subject matter experts, application experts, and of course, business analysts. It's not necessarily the need to have a full team of test analysts. You need a good makeup. If you take a look at any team, it's made up of different people. It's made up of all different types because people think differently. And that's the same for the QA thing. So if you set your team up properly and get them involved early, then you can map your requirements to purpose. And then what you're testing is exactly what you need. And it's about working closely with the end user from the start, not towards the end, from the start. One of the other pitfalls that I come across is that people don't think about the environments that are required for testing. And there's a supplementary one to that, and that's about the data and the data migration into those environments to support what you're trying to achieve. So I've worked on a number of programs where I've come in the door or been parachuted in the door, and the first thing I've looked at is the one test environment that supports a $250 million program. Well, within that program, you need to integrate legacy system to new. You need to map all your business processes. You need a training to be done, everything to be monitored, and you cannot do that all with one environment. If you go back to your basic principles of QA, if you can isolate the functionality within the system, and even better when you're implementing something like D365, if you can use out of the box as opposed to manipulation to get it to do what you want to do, then you save time, cost, and effort. But the environment is key. You want an environment where you can do a system test. You need an environment to integrate. And more crucially, you need an environment to performance test. Because as you go through the life cycle of testing, if you are making changes to your legacy system or even to D365 itself and coding is being introduced, as the time pressures come on, people stop coding for performance and they code for functionality. So without that detailed non-functional testing environment, you do end up with more hiccups in production than you'd like. And I've had experience of systems falling over at 2 concurrent users because the coding has been done for the functionality. So a recommendation for me would be to use out of the box, because actually you shouldn't have to test that. It should work. Have a good set of environments that allow you to go through a life cycle, and more importantly, think about the future. Because one environment won't support the future. Products like D365 are released quarterly, monthly, half yearly, with major patches, minor patches. You need the legacy there. You need that environment footprint to allow you to keep progressing and progressing at speed. I referred to data migration a little bit a while ago, and I think that's key as well, because you are going to take data from one system to another. And I can guarantee you that the databases aren't exactly the same. So investing your time and effort in making sure that migration is right, again, means when you're physically testing the system, the integration testing or the system testing, your confidence where your issues are will be in the systems and not the data that you've migrated. A good data strategy will make any project successful from start to finish. If you don't think about the data and think it's just a lift and shift, then you'll come across so many data-related issues, you will start to struggle to find what are the system-related issues via the data-related issues. And as you go through the life cycle, coming back to what I started with, you've got to still focus on the purpose. And so some of that purpose is, what is the end user looking for? And there'll be different types of end users. There'll be your admin user, there'll be your just front end user, there'll be different functions that other users want to do. So understanding and mapping that out as you go through your testing means you can sort all of that stuff early as well. A few programs I've worked on have just used the admin privileges to go all the way through the test lifecycle. And it's no surprise when you get to the end of it that people are struggling to understand why what they were doing before they weren't allowed to do now. And you get into those false positive defect situations where you're constantly chasing your tails to find an answer to a question that's already been answered. And so that's key. Having that data strategy, security strategy, admin strategy, user strategy, and pulling that all to the front end of the life cycle to map it into the requirements that are being laid down. And for any budding test managers, test leads, QA leads who are listening, my advice to them is be bold. Don't sit in the room when you're doing your walkthroughs. If you don't understand, put your hand up again and again and again. Because as you go through the testing life cycle, people will be looking at you to be the expert. Not just the expert on testing, but the expert on the system. So for you test managers out there, make sure you build a team. Make sure you build a team that is multifunctional. Make sure it supports the end user, the development team, the business analysts, and it supports you. If you pull all that together, you'll have a successful implementation. But trust me, we've been saying the same thing for 35 years in testing. It all comes down to requirements. Get your requirements right, everything works fine. Thanks, Stu.